the current discourse about Egypt and Tunisia has been reduced to more or less, well, what can we do with protest and so on. There has not been a single imaginative proposal. But due to, again, our experience of having worked with the Algerian embassy in France, where they said, what can you do about this area, there was, very happily, a great deal of research into areas of Tunisia and Algeria. And that can also be applied to areas of Egypt. And it is to have, and I've done some testing in the United Arab Emirates about this, to connect the salt lakes that are near the ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, with the Mediterranean Sea, to restore what was, in fact, a previous Gulf. I mean, we're not talking about making something fantastic. We're talking about just restoring a pre-existing state of nature that has been blocked or destroyed by all the erosion due to domestication of animals and due to heavy grazing and due to farming and due to the general destruction of the Sahara by people. And we just undo that damage by excavating the connection between the salt lakes and the sea. Now, if one were to do that in, say, Egypt, if one were to do that in Libya, if one were to do that in Algeria and Tunisia, this would create enormous numbers of jobs. This would create a huge new industry of biogas production that could then relieve people from depending only on the oil industry. And this could have a whole, if you will, sensational historical scope, because the whole crisis about Arab Spring and dictatorships and wars, Syria, whatever, would all collapse in a story now of art going to action, or triggering action that can be constructive for restoring, as the ambassador asked me, the Sahara to some kind of savanna, beginning to restore the ecosystem of North Africa. Now that can come from the United States. We, the villains, we who now have people in prison in Egypt and so on, can become the heroes, if I use that term, by simply introducing into the discourse known earthwork practice and cutting channels like Michael Heitzer or Dennis Oppenheimer's Dead Furl into the territories where there is this known gap. Now, I'm not speaking as some kind of wild guy. This was exactly the idea of German scientists back in 1916. Cut a channel from here to the Qatar Depression. This was exactly the idea of a French general in the 1880s. Cut a channel from the ocean to the inland Salt Lakes. These are ideas that are fairly easy to impose. The idea now for the artist is somebody to trigger the idea, to introduce the idea, to aestheticize, to propose the idea publicly so that it becomes part of the discourse. We can't only protest. We, the artists and artists, have to propose. And part of the reason I'm excited by doing it here, say in this zone, is that if you do cut a channel from the Qatar Depression to the Mediterranean Sea, and continuing the whole line of cuts through the desert here, if you were to do that, it'd be a huge project, but it's not that big. It's not, it's not bigger than the military budget today being spent on this and that, venture that we have. If you were to do that kind of work, you would be going through an old battlefield of El Alamein and be reenacting what happened, which was a sort of attack meant to go like this, and you could essentially rewrite the history of that region. Rewrite what Germany did, what New Zealand did, and give it a whole new posture beyond the current abuse that we've had from the German and New Zealand authorities. So we take the historical dynamic that's now to our disadvantage and turn it into something that is to everybody's advantage.